So the governor of Arizona made a trip down to the border and had some pretty strong statements for the Biden administration, and I think it's about the best that she was able to do. I don't know what else can be expected. As most of you know, I've been critical. I'll be critical of anyone when I think that it's appropriate. But you also have to give credit where credit's due. I've talked about the mayor of New York and some of the things that he has said. He sounds a lot like the Republican governor from Texas when it speaks of the border issue. They are a sanctuary city in New York. They are a sanctuary state. They have said it emphatically, and even they have backed off of that because of what's happening. I think there is now a new understanding, and more than anything else, it's what we need in our society. When we have these huge political differences, and we are very politically divided in this country, an understanding of the other side's argument, not an agreement, but of the validity of their argument, when that becomes real. I don't agree with you, but I understand what you're saying goes a long way in a conversation. Especially in an election year, this happens. We see the division is that the other side is not just wrong, but they're evil and they're dangerous. I've been hearing it for years. I've chronicled it. I've talked about it. As a conservative Republican, when Barack Obama was running for re-election, not just his election, but after 4 years of President Obama in that election year, the narrative was if he gets reelected, this is the Republican narrative, if he gets reelected, America is irreparable. We will lose this country. Go back and look at the headlines. Go and look at the narrative that this will be the ruination of our country. 18 months later, at the end of his second term of his presidency and then the election of Donald Trump, Republicans were touting the best economy, this again, Republican perspective, that this nation had ever seen. So then it proved that Barack Obama's second term didn't destroy the country irreparably. Then we heard from other people the same thing about Donald Trump, that electing Donald Trump president was going to ruin this country. That didn't happen either. And I'm telling you, this with the same thing is happening. Do I think Joe Biden should be reelected? Absolutely not. I think that he should not be reelected. But this idea that we're going to continue to demonize the other side all the time, they're wrong. The president's policies on the border are 100% wrong. And even a very liberal Democrat governor in Katie Hobbs sees it. And as the governor of Arizona, has no choice but to acknowledge it. And I'm giving her credit for that. That's her job. Her job as the governor of Arizona is to represent the people of Arizona. She is going to do it through the prism of her political ideology, through the view of her political ideology. But that doesn't mean that she can ignore what's going on. I want you to hear what she asked. This is what she asked the President of the United States in her trip down to Lukeville.
I'm not afraid to stand up to politicians on either side who aren't doing what's in the best interests of Arizona. And I'm taking action. This week, I sent a letter to President Biden demanding the resources and manpower to open this port of entry. And we announced Operation Secure to step up state support for local law enforcement.
And that's what the governor should do. Now, my hope is, that because she is in the same political party as this president, that we'll get some results. But what's interesting is on this issue, there has been utter silence from the administration. Go back a couple of years, and the Vice President Harris was named the border czar. She was put in charge of fixing this situation. There are no questions for the vice president regarding this. She has not been, publicly at least, questioned about what are you doing? What is going on? Why are things so bad? Now, the president has said Congress must act. I agree with that Congress must act. Will they? Will they come together and act on this? But in the meantime, you've got, again, the state of Arizona, our governor down in Lukeville. The port of entry is closed. People can't do business across national borders. And yet they're making it easier to get people in this country illegally. There's an app. You can make an appointment on the southern side of the border saying, hey, I'm coming and I want an appointment. And then walk across the border illegally, turn yourself into federal hands or march your way up to processing centers and then get your appointment. They're making it easier. It's more difficult to do legal business between Mexico and the United States. There's a story, and I watched the video, and the video is brutal. There is a town that stood up to the cartels, and 14 people killed in a Mexican town after villagers rise up against the cartels. The Mexican authorities continue to investigate the brutal clash that killed 14 men and injured several others. The death occurred when a group of villagers took up arms against the ruling cartel in response to the rising extortion fees collected from farmers. I saw a video of people that had been murdered laying in the street, burned bodies. It was horrific. But this is what they're facing. This is our neighbors to the south. This is our number one trading partner. So instead of us talking about how we improve all of those situations, right now, the conversation that's happening is this ridiculous idea that we're going to make it impossible, or at least very difficult, with interstate commerce. But we're going to make it easier for people to come across the border the way they are. Representative Juan Ciscomani and Judiciary Chairman Jordan urged Biden administration to suspend the CBP One app. Here is a quote. The Biden administration once again prioritized illegal immigration over legitimate trade and travel by deciding to suspend operation at our ports of entry while continuing to process illegal immigrants through the CBP One app. That's a quote from Congressman Ciscomani. Despite the CBP not having the manpower to staff the ports of entry, which our communities rely on, the administration is still processing nearly 1,500 appointments daily through the app, in addition to taking walk-ins as they are needed. Congressman Ciscomani goes on and says the closure or suspension of an operation at a port of entry should be the last resort. Non-essential operations like processing CBP One app appointments should be the first operation shut down when redirecting personnel and an influx of illegal immigrants. The Biden administration is not only playing fast and loose with local economies and the daily lives of the southwestern border residents, but also providing that it prioritizes illegal immigration over American citizens. Well said. And that is the sentiment of Americans, not just Republicans, Americans. Let's find out when it's going to change.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.